Today on the Closers Club, I've got Scott Morris, the founder of Lamasu Media and the lead gen machine behind over 59 million outbound calls for real estate investors nationwide. He runs one of the most advanced investor call centers in the game with over 150 agents dialing every single U.S. market each and every day. And today he's here because everything just changed. A new court ruling just blew a hole through the DNC rulebook. And if you're still calling like it's last week, you could be setting yourself up for lawsuits or lost leads. We're breaking it all down, and trust me, you've got 20 minutes to get this right. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Closers Club.
What a time to be alive. What a time
It's
to
great.
be in telemarketing.
Yeah, and you're leading the charge. So what's going on? If people have been under a rock and they haven't heard, I wanted to bring you on because you are the expert in the industry. What were we facing last week, and what's changed this week?
Yep. So a lot of this I've compiled. This is the actual case dockets. This is everything, every piece of evidence, every reference case.
Mhm.
I've studied it in and out because I wanted to be able to be an expert for myself first, but
Right.
also for my clients. We'll do about 5 million outbound dials a month right now. And so at that type of volume, I need to know, and I want to be able to provide the best for my clients to make sure they're safe and protected.
Right.
But as of June 4th, the case law was pretty murky out there as to are what we do, and everything that we say is the DNC, when we're calling somebody, are we offering a service for them to buy something? Are we trying to sell them something, which under the letter of the law, which the DNC was designed for? And so it's kind of gone back and forth, but on June 5th in Kofi versus Fast Easy Offer, the judge came down and declared, in fact, our type of marketing, where we're attempting to put cash into somebody's hands, would not, under the letter of the law, constitute a DNC violation.
Got it. Okay. Sounds like you got something going on in the background there. Are you right in the bullpen there?
Yeah, I'm right here, right by the sales floor right now.
Awesome. I love it. So this was a big thing, right? That new law that came out at the beginning of the year. It was there. It was stalled. We weren't really sure what was happening.
And that one went away.
Right. So that was the problem. Was we had to be very careful, and real estate investors were getting sued left and right and paying some pretty big fines and settlements for calling people who were on the do not call list. What is it now what's the distinction that came out in this ruling?
So I think it's really easy to get over the skis. And so I put together a website called dncisdead.com.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
And so people can go there, they can kind of register, and I'll continue to update it as case law happens to kind of support and go behind it. But I just want people to understand that this exists. I think a lot of times it's easier in the influencer space to just say something and not tell everybody exactly what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's really easy to screw this up. And it's also really easy for somebody to screw it up for all of us.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is if somebody goes and tries to just carte blanche abuse this, what you're going to do is you're going to get a judge that says, you know what? No, I'm okay with ruling against the 9th District Court. I'm okay with having now conflicting results where this has to now go up to a Supreme Court level or wherever it may be. But as of right now, the courts, the 9th District Court, for sure, anybody who's on the West Coast, you should feel actually more comfortable than people who are on the East Coast.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because the way the district courts rule is they very rarely will rule against themselves inside the same district. So the 9th District is the one who came down. And so when you have a conflict of two different districts that have ruled on the same matter, that's typically where it then has to be elevated. But for the first time in a long time, David, and this is where people have to understand is you now have a response that you can send. You now have something to reference. If somebody sends you a demand letter and you've kind of gone by the letter of the law, you now have something to reference versus before just being like, oh, I'm so sorry, we'll remove you, et cetera, et cetera. People were just caving versus having a legal precedent to point to. And now there's a legal precedent.
Right. So just a little bit, just to give some reference, what you guys do at Lamasu. Like I know, but I want you to explain to everybody, like just real quick, like kind of what you do and the scale and the scope that you do it, and why this is so important that you really understand this.
Yeah, so I represent investors nationwide. Investors are hiring us to reach out and find motivated sellers or distressed sellers.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is just merely put cash in those people's pockets. And so we're calling people nationwide, and we're trying to generate the highest qualified, highest motivated leads and send them to an investor so that way the investor can begin negotiating with them.
Right.
And I think what's important is we've always been very respectful of the DNC. If somebody says I'm on the DNC and we happen to call them, even if they aren't, we always still took really good care of them. And I even told my team, if somebody tells you after this ruling and we're calling into Arizona and we're following it, somebody says I'm on the DNC list, still treat them with respect.
Sure.
Let's not call and harass them.
Antagonizing people, right? That makes
Exactly.
absolutely no sense.
I don't want to be the bad guy. I just want to find the people who have a problem that need a solution and match
Right.
those up. But I think that it just allows us to say, you know what? This is not a loophole. This is what
Right.
it was designed for.
Right.
The DNC was designed from people to stop people from getting harassed and people trying to take their credit cards over the phone, over the phone, over the phone. It wasn't designed to prevent politicians. We all know when it's that time of the year. There's charities that are calling you 100 times. How many times have you guys gotten a call from the firefighters?
Yeah, I was going to say the Police Benevolent Society or whatever it is. You cannot get off of those lists no matter what you do.
Exactly. Well, so now also is people who are going to be offering to buy something from you. And so that's now part of it. And it's fair, man. We're just trying to put cash in somebody's pocket. We're not trying to take something away from them.
So that seems to be what little bit of research I've done. The distinction between with this ruling, right, is now that, we're not bothering you to get your money. We're calling you to try to, I guess, what is it that we're offering to buy, or is it that we're trying to put money in your pocket? Where is that distinction that the court came down on?
Yeah, it's really about offering to buy.
Right. Okay.
Because we're not offering to, we're not
Sell.
trying to get them to sell. We're not selling us something.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of words that are specific in there,
Mhm.
but for us that we're calling, just saying, hey, listen, we're interested, seeing if you're interested, or we'd like to know if you're interested in selling your property. We'd like to buy your property. How's the process of selling your property going? Even if later it turns into another type of transaction, that initial conversation is exactly that. It's just us inquiring on how we can help them, and that doesn't go against the law.
Right. So now investors, they don't have to be as concerned with taking their list and scrubbing it through the DNC list, right? We can call everybody or text everybody. How is texting affected by this?
So it's really great question. I think I'll answer the first half of it first before
Sure.
we get to the celebration, which is should they scrub against the DNC or not? I don't think this really changes the amount of people who are going to be threatened. I think it should just give people who receive the threatening letters more confidence in their responses.
Okay.
And as somebody who's been in multiple lawsuits, including Wall Street-backed lawsuits from other industries, I can tell you emphatically, you don't have to be wrong to be sued.
Oh, yes.
And you don't have to be wrong to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars proving that you're right. And so this is not something where all of a sudden you're going to call somebody who's on the DNC list who is a habitual suer and him not pursue you. You're just now going to have some legs to stand on. And so if you still want to avoid that, maybe you scrub against the known litigator databases like we do. Or maybe you just, because again, this is not going to prevent you from spending money on attorney's fees. It should, though, just give you such a resounding response that you don't have to go through the full litigation process to prove that, in fact, you're right.
Love it. So a lot of attorneys are upset. A lot of ambulance chasers, they're crying in their coffee this week.
They're definitely crying in their coffee. And what I've always learned about these things is the reason why this finally comes as a resolution is because it's tweaking. All right. So the ambulance chasers won that time, and then the good guys, we have to make some changes. But the ambulance chasers are also going to be making some changes too. And so all this really revolves around is, can they go to a different place and try to set new legal precedent? But until that precedent is set, this is like really amazing news. You couldn't ask for more wind at your sails for telecommunications as well as text messages. So text messages under this, and the way that it came through with the decree, it also would give us that landscape. The disadvantage with text messaging is there's still that A2P. There's all that carrier stuff is still in the way. But in regards to, does a text constitute asking somebody, are you interested in selling your property? We'd like to buy your property. It would not violate the DNC in and of itself.
Nice. Now there's still some rules that the average investor, the people who don't want to use Lamasu for some reason, if they're going to try to do this on their own, they've still got things that they have to comply with, right? Like the randomizing of the numbers and like how all of that works. Like talk about that a little bit, because you still need to operate, as you said, in a sane way, right? Not aggravate the crap out of people.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just the quality of your callers. I think cold call is one of the weirdest channels out there. Like, you wouldn't go to Google and be like, give me the cheapest, worst click you got. But
Yeah.
people do that with cold callers. They're like, hey, I want
People
to hire
do.
somebody way in the other side of the world, and I want to pay,
Mhm.
2, 3, $4 an hour.
Right.
And what you end up getting is somebody who's going to piss off people who pick up the phone.
Sure.
So the best thing, even though it's not illegal, is just having a
Mhm.
competent person who can have a
Right.
conversation, who has voice
Mhm.
inflection, and say,
Yeah.
my apologies, sir. Our effort here was just to help
Mhm.
you. It wasn't to harm you. If you don't mind, I'll put you on my list. I can't prevent other people from calling you, but
Yeah.
I'll make sure that my team doesn't follow up with you. In regards to the legal structure, TCPA has a bunch of guidelines. One of
Mhm.
them was the DNC list, but
Right.
there's other stuff like abandonment rates. In no
Oh,
month can you have a higher than 3% abandonment rate, or you have now infringed against that, and that's a major violation. So
okay.
there's all these dialer constraints and stuff that we
Yeah.
are 100% dialed into here, because
Right.
at this type of volume, you become, you're raising your hand. So we make
Mhm.
sure we comply with all
Yeah.
guidelines there.
Talk a little bit more about that abandonment rate. That's something I haven't heard of before.
So abandonment rate means just for every 100 people that answer,
Mhm.
only 3 people will say hello, hello, click before they get connected to an agent. So in other
Oh,
words, they abandon because you're pumping more. If you want to feed 150 agents, you got to
right.
call 300 or 400 people at a time.
Sure.
You just got to make sure that there's not all these people saying, because you've had it happen to you before. You've
I was
answered
just
the phone.
yes, yes, and this is where it drives me crazy because after, of course, working with you guys, we understand what a very high level of service is when we were running our wholesale company. But because I own 100 rental properties, I get calls all the time. And Scott, I pick up and there's just nothing, and then I get this little like connect buzz, and then they disconnect. So I'm like, God, these whoever this crappy cold caller is really screwing over whoever's paying them, right?
This is the gospel. I was sitting in my office with my
Yeah.
team today, and I answered one, and it was 8 seconds. I said 1, 2, 3,
Oh,
all
is
the
that
way
what it
to eight
is?
seconds,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't hang up. But if I would have hung up, that would have counted it as an abandon. But the
Mm,
whole point is imagine the guy in Arkansas who's paying some cold callers in Egypt
yeah.
to make
Yeah.
dials, and then people are answering, but there's nobody there to service them.
Right. No, every time I'm like, oh, I just know that there's some random wholesaler who's cutting a check for
Yep.
this crappy cold calling company, and they're just getting screwed over. Like they don't even realize it.
No, if you can't quantify those types of failures, I want to give some, because I know we're going to be on a time frame. I want to give some
Yeah.
additional advice I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
may
Let's
not
get into
know
it.
that's in this case.
Yeah.
And that is, if you're a brokerage house that's also wholesaling,
Mhm.
that's going to be an issue for you.
Okay. You mean
It
like
has,
if you're a realtor and
if you're
also
a
okay.
realtor, you have frontline sales. Because I have clients that are myself. They're like,
Mhm.
hey, we wholesale, and then if that doesn't work, we move it over to our other team. But it's the same brand, same office, same
Mm,
everything.
okay.
That's going to be really, really murky.
Okay.
There's already been case law at the Supreme Court level that
Whoa.
says a real estate agent doing very similar would in fact violate this versus an investor now wouldn't.
Okay.
And so that's something really important to keep in mind. Also, what I got a lot of really good tips from this on how the bad guys look at it, but they're
Yeah.
going to go to your website.
Okay.
The bad guys, they're going to go to your website, and you want to make sure that, honestly, don't be a bad guy, but sometimes
Right.
people don't pay attention to the language that's
Mhm.
on their website about how our services work is like a fee, and what we're doing is we're selling you our services. And so like if you
Oh.
had something on there about your wholesale operation,
Yeah.
and maybe you weren't as clear that, hey, listen, I'm the investor, I'm the end buyer,
Yeah.
and you use the language about I'm selling a service, or how we're going to
Mhm.
do it is kind of give you a discounted fee, and that would be
It's
like
getting
your service
murky.
fee. Yeah, you just want to keep it, kiss it.
Yeah.
Vague is good, vague is your friend,
Right.
and you just don't want to confuse the marketplace. So I
Right.
saw a lot of that, how they really dig deep, the bad guys, on
Mhm.
your operation to prove in fact that you're a realtor, or that you're
Uh-huh.
disguising a discounted purchase price as a hidden service fee.
Gotcha. So would your recommendation to those people that are running a brokerage and they're trying to wholesale, which is great, right? Like I'm all for, scaling out your business, but to run those really and separate them as two different brands.
Yeah, you either have to do that or you have to ignore the news.
Yeah, well, I think that happens too often, right? Investors think like, nobody's going to come after me. I'm in Arkansas and I'm just doing, you know, 5 deals a month or 10 deals a month. And then that's when you get that certified letter and like, oh my God, my world just changed, right? So
Yeah,
much of that. So
100%.
cool. So for you guys, like this was obviously big news. I've seen your post. That's why I reached out and wanted to make sure I got you on here. How did this change this week for Lamasu and for what you guys are doing and for your clients?
I think it just added some pep in our step. It
Hmm.
really didn't change much. One of the things I'm really proud at is before this ruling and after this ruling, at the
Yeah.
end of every one of my phone calls,
Yeah.
What I do, David, is I get a permission opt-in on the recorded line. We say,
Oh,
hey, Mrs. Jones, before I pass you over or
mhm.
before I match you with the local real estate investor in your area that specializes in this property, I
Yeah.
just want to get both your permission and consent to have them reach you back via phone or text message.
Ah,
So
okay.
even though in theory I don't need to do that,
Hmm.
why not have a car with more crash guards, right?
Right. Right.
And so it really didn't change much other than I got to stand in front of the room and say, guys, hey, it's game time.
Yeah.
This really helps buttress what we've always said, which is we're not selling them a product. We're trying to offer them money. It shouldn't comply. It doesn't.
Mhm.
And I think all it does is maybe give some of the risk reward people who are on the sidelines about cold calling,
Yes.
gives them confidence to come into the game. It
Hmm.
doesn't really change what we do because our principles or standards were already at a level that
Hmm.
this didn't matter. But now I think it'll allow other people on the sidelines the comfortability to come play the game.
Yeah, I love that you're doing that, because that was sort of the big question back in January is with that new law that went into effect, is like, how are the PPL companies going to operate? Like, how do they possibly, right? Like how does somebody go in and give their information and then they sell it to 14 people? Although they say they're exclusive leads, we all know that's
Yeah.
maybe not the case. So yeah, I think that's fantastic that you guys do that.
Yeah, and I think also too that would have been way more damaging than this had been ruled against that PPL
Hmm.
thing
Yeah.
because it was going to make it a one-to-one consent. Now
Right.
we do that linearly, but all these there's so many companies out there, like even
Hmm.
Zillow themselves. All of a sudden, Zillow selling those leads to a real estate agent, you can't do that anymore. So it was
Right.
really going to complex it, and I just think for people out there, this is not to abuse the customers. This is
Hmm.
not to break just common sense, but it's to give you the freedom to say, you know what? I truly believe in what I'm doing, which is helping people.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to take, I'm trying to give. And the
Right.
way Congress wrote the law, if they want to change it, they need to change it.
Yeah.
So until then, this is America. We work within the guidelines that are given to us. And if the
Hmm.
guidelines are favorable, damn it, let's hit the gas pedal.
Nice. Cool. So I think what's great, when I was wholesaling and we were doing this nationwide, and I know we have lots of clients, they want to make sure that they are working with somebody who, my God, understands the law and is going to keep them out of trouble, right?
Yep.
It's great to pay somebody to get me a bunch of leads, but if they're just out there fucking up and I'm going to get embroiled in a lawsuit, that's terrible. So super important that if you're watching this and you're looking for great cold callers, you know, Lamasu is fantastic. Scott is absolutely wonderful and a leader in our industry. But just for those people, we got like a minute or two left. Like overall, like Lamasu, what do you guys do for the average investor who should be reaching out to you? Because I'm going to drop your link here.
Well, I can tell you at least at the time of this recording, because of this,
Mhm.
we're really celebrating for the public. So
Yeah.
for the first time ever, what we're going to be doing for all of our new people
Hmm.
that are signing up and also our renewals, but we're now going to include all data associated
Mm,
with the dialer included in our services because I
nice.
want to encourage those people on the fences. And I'm going to give a copy of all the data that we called every 90 days to the customer so that way he can
Mhm.
turn it into an asset. So I want them to
Nice.
be able to be like, hey, listen, I sign up with Lamasu. I don't manage a dialer. I don't hire kids. I'm not
Yeah.
swapping out phone numbers.
Right.
Nothing's registered. I'm using this enterprise level company and they're going to generate fire leads.
Mhm.
Also, every quarter, they're going to return to me the data. That way I can synergize it maybe with my mail campaigns. And
Nice.
so for right now, what I'm doing is I'm saying, I don't know how long this is going to last. At some point, all merry-go-round stop.
Yeah.
But let's get it while we can, boys and girls.
Nice.
And if I can generate fire leads from you from a marketing channel where otherwise you may have ignored or maybe didn't have somebody with expertise, that's what I want to do. And so that's why lamasuleads.com, you go there, you ultimately find your way to my calendar.
Mhm.
And we can talk about what I expect to happen in your market, the lead flow, the
Mhm.
conversion ratio, and we're pretty dialed in.
Nice. Scott, final word. People who say cold calling is dead.
Cold calling just came back from the grave.
Yeah, baby.
And
That applause was on cue
yeah,
behind you, right?
exactly. It's back from the grave, but I want you to use it intelligently. Don't
Yeah.
screw it up for me because you're not doing it the right way. Learn a
Mhm.
little bit about this. Let's not abuse it, guys and gals.
Mhm.
But I think this is the golden era of cold calling. And so ironic, right? As AI's coming up, the
Yeah.
golden era of the
Yeah.
traditional method works. And sometimes just hitting the gym is going to produce the best results.
Nice. Awesome. Right on time. 20 minutes, Scott. Thank you so much for jumping on the Closers Club, man. I appreciate it. I love everything that you're doing for the industry. Thanks so much for coming on.